respect the flag. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Um, I'm doing a series on depression and suicide, which most people do not discuss it. They don't want to hear it. But it's something that affects veterans heavily. Depression and suicide. Suicide rates among veterans are ridiculously high. And I'm sure they've spiked within the last year higher than normal. It shouldn't even be normal because of the whole Corona lockdown. The VA basically shut down, mental health. You do that, they're finally starting to see us in person again, but they did that over the phone. It's hard to do over the phone because you're not really talking to somebody. I mean, you are on the phone, but I mean, they can't see your body motion, body language. And even now, when you go in, you have to have the stupid face masks on, which are totally useless unless it's an N95 mask. Oh, the regular, I should have brought my mask out. The regular mask, the viruses pass right through. That's scientific fact. But anyway, so all the AA meetings stopped, the Al-Anon meetings, group meetings for, anger management, depression, AA groups, all of that came to an end. It's been almost a year. So all of that is on the increase. Kids are trapped in the home, not able to go out. So depression right now is very, very strong, spreading, in my opinion, throughout this country. Your kids are stuck at home. They can't go with their friends because mommy or daddy are paranoid that you're going to get the virus. And the proven fact is, scientific fact, from Fauci and all those clowns, the risk of kids spreading it is almost minuscule. So even Fauci said kids should be in school. WHO, World Health Organization, said kids should be in school. Those are fact. You can look it up on Google. You can Google it. Another major tech company taking over, right? So right now, depression is on the way up. You have kids from young 5-year-olds all the way up to teenagers that are stuck in the house. They can't go play with their friends. They can't go to school and gossip about everybody and joke and sneak out back to smoke some pot or whatever. They can't be doing that. They're stuck at home. That is stressing nationwide. Kids need to get out of the house. Adults need to get out of the house. This lockdown, like Trump always said, he says, President Trump said that the cure can't be worse than the disease. Corona. And every now and then I get a problem with my throat. And I don't have any cough drops out here. So I may have to shut this down early. And it is. The economic hardship, mom pop stores going out of business, haircut places going out of business. Those are the small mom pop ones I'm talking about. Restaurants closing down. Over 100,000 restaurants closed permanently this past year. And it's not getting any better. Biden and Harris, they're going to shut everything down. That's going to create more depression. You have spousal abuse, child abuse, all of that is increasing dramatically. So I figure, well, this is a good time to do videos on depression and suicide. I'm going to try to separate them. Veterans, suicide rate in veterans is just ridiculously out of control. And I believe being a veteran, I've tried to kill myself multiple times. I mean, not like a shitload, but enough. What happens with, I don't know if I should do the depression end first because of the way I started this, or I should do the suicide first. They're really combined together. Depression can cause suicidal tendencies. Anger issues also, because you have a habit of I do. Michael turned his anger inward because you have nowhere to release it, meaning the people that are responsible in the military for your anger issues get away scot-free. And it shouldn't be that way. So you have no way of releasing that anger. Michael had MS. He had it for 8 months before they started treating him. They said he had it, then they said he didn't, and they kept going back and forth. So 8 months he went without being treated. He had a fractured femur that he still had to run every day. Well, 5 days a week. He still had to run, still had to go to work. He went to the ER multiple times, telling them that when he runs, he can barely walk after the run, that the pain is excruciating, blah, blah. So what they did is they put in his file that he's just looking for pills. That's what they put in there. They x-rayed it and said, well, x-ray doesn't show anything. X-rays, as a lot of people know, X-rays do not generally show fractures. And a lot of other stuff too, but we're just concentrating on that. So, he wasn't getting treated for the MS. He wasn't getting treated for the excruciating pain from the fracture. So what happened is the fractured femur healed on its own, but obviously not properly. Then what happened is it broke. The fracture gave way. So they still really wouldn't do anything, which was mind-boggling. You know, being a veteran in the VA system, you expect the VA not to take care of you. That's going to be another video on my experience, horrible experience with the VA. Not the entire VA, the Saginaw VA. The doctor I have, she is friggin' awesome. But all the doctors before, well, the doctor she took over for was really good too. But all the doctors beforehand and the ones in Flint that were horrible doctors, useless. So anyway, so the fracture broke and they still wouldn't do anything. So he was actually walking on a broken femur for a few days. Then finally, he went off. He was in the hospital. He went off on a doctor. Like really went off on him, and the doctor said, what the hell? And he says, you know, the pain, blah, 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 femur, been this many months, they won't do anything. So the doctor says, I want an MRI or CT scan, one of the two, of his hip. Turns out, and they did it, and then the doctor said, well, you had a fracture that healed, and now it broke. Think about that. The kind of pain of running with a fractured femur. So that caused him great depression. Also anger because they weren't taking care of his problem. When you get written up for like idiotic things, like at his work, he worked in vehicle maintenance. A vehicle was touching the wall, not his fault. He wasn't there, he was TDY, but yet he got an LOC, letter from the commander, for the vehicle touching the wall. It had nothing to do with him. He wasn't there. Stuff like that. I got written up for speeding on the Autobahn. There's no speed limit on the Autobahn. And when I was in, there was no AFI, Air Force instruction, and there was no military code stating that you had to do 55. It was a suggestion that you do 55. There's a little pamphlet. That didn't matter. I got an LLC for speeding on the Autobahn. And I said, there's no AFI, there's no military. I said, there's nothing that makes that a rule in the military. And so anyway, I got an LLC for it. They said because there was a pamphlet. The pamphlet wasn't even for the military, it was for civilians of military families, is who the pamphlet was designed for. You have to laugh about shit like that because it's like, it's so stupid, but you try to ignore it. I had items from Dyes Air Force Base that were never shipped, so I lost all that. They didn't have cell phones and text messaging and all that back then when I was in, so I lost all that. I went above and beyond restoring when I went over to Germany. I did a lot of extra volunteer. I did stuff that wasn't even, anyway, I did a lot of things that were ignored. Didn't get credit for. Didn't show up in my APRs. 6 months before I was supposed to re-enlist, they said, we're not allowing you to re-enlist. And I was like, why? And it was over stupid shit they wrote me up for. Now, if I did something and it was my responsibility, then yes, I would say, yeah, I absolutely, yeah, I take responsibility for that. But a lot of the stuff, it automatically, you being a lower rank, you are a liar. Automatically. Michael was lying about his hip hurting him. Well, the fracture healed, then it broke before they would do anything. And so that caused him severe depression, anger issues. I have a lot of anger issues and depression stemming from the military. When you're, for myself, a lot of veterans, you know, the ones that were in war zones, that seen people getting shot next to them and blowing up and stuff like that. Okay, absolutely, you know, that's some serious shit. But when they get written up for such stupid things, like Michael broke an alternator. He works in vehicle maintenance. You will break car parts now and then. He got written up for it. Another LLC, destruction of government property. So it's stuff like that that can cause depression and anger issues in veterans. And you think, well, come on, that's stupid. So what? When you're in the military, you know, honor, pride, there's a lot of that. Respect. And as a lower rank, when you're not respected, automatically you're a liar. And a lot of them are, don't get me wrong. But I grew up, you know, with the honor, pride, meant something. I don't know if one of the cats wants to go out or wants to come in. Somebody over there by the door. But part of the reason the suicide rate is so high in veterans is, one, stuff that happened in the military where they got screwed over for something simple. And it's like, oh, well, that was something simple. Okay. Then I got this. Then I got this. Then I got this. You know, it's all that stuff builds up. And you ignore it at first. Then you start drinking and using, well, now they can't use drugs. They really crack down on that. They even crack down on drinking. If you leak after work, if you have 3 beers after work, you're binge drinking now. When I was in, they didn't really care. Same thing with drugs when I was in overseas. Hash, Black Liberty's hash. Turkish hash was the best because it was laced with opium. Uh, oh, really? But anyway, so that's part of the reason. And then a lot of veterans don't get the treatment when they get out of the military either. I was being seen in mental health in Flint, and even in Ann Arbor. And the girl in Ann Arbor was, new. I would say almost fresh out of college. She went by the book. And I told her, I don't care what you learned in school, in college, depression and suicide tendencies is not a textbook. Every person is different. It's different. And she always was like, oh, you got to do this. She would give you homework to do. One of the things like they want me to do was sit in a quiet room and think about something cheerful. Well, a room is never quiet for me because I have the ringing in the ears for being on the flight line without hearing protection when I was supposed to get hearing protection. So I didn't have hearing protection when I should have. So that's a problem I have. So it literally is, and you say, oh, well, come on. No, take a screech bug and have it next to you 24 hours a day. That's what I put up with. So that makes you depressed and angry because it doesn't go away. There never is quiet. Right now, it's quiet in here. All I'm getting is a ringing in the ears. And that's why I always try to have noise in the background because, especially when you go to bed, you're trying to sleep. Then you get that ringing in your ears. It's not quiet. And it gets upsetting. It gets depressing. It gives you, and you get pissed because all you want it to do is just be quiet. And health-wise, a lot of stuff builds up. You're not getting treatment. So you figure, okay, well, I've been out of the military. I've been out for a few years. But I didn't get the treatment. I went to mental health and they just told me overseas. I went to mental health and they just told me I would adjust. And I'm like, but I want to take a vehicle, smash into an aircraft, and blow myself up along with the aircraft. Oh, well, you'll adjust. That's like serious. So I didn't get the treatment that I should have had. They denied it to me. So when I tried to get compensation for depression and suicide tendencies, I was refused. They says it wasn't diagnosed while you were in the military, and that's the problem. And that's how they get out of giving veterans disability or compensation that they deserve, because they just say, well, it wasn't diagnosed when you were in the service. Sleep apnea when I was in the service wasn't even heard of. The VA didn't recognize it until about 15 years ago or so. I don't even know if it was 15, it might have been 10. Anyway, they finally started to recognize it. So how could I be diagnosed with sleep apnea when I was in the military when they didn't know what it was? And you guys didn't acknowledge it until I was already out of the service for 15, 20 years. So that just pisses you off. And so you have a lot of stuff like that. And people think, well, something simple stuff like that, who cares? It's not who cares, it's the principle. I joined the military to serve my country. I was proud to go in. That was going to be my life, was being in the military. I mean, I was so set on being in the military, I wanted to go in for life, But anyway, so with veterans, and then, let's see, I don't want to go into the suicide end of it, because I want to make that separate. So the depression, everybody deals with depression. You didn't get the Kung Fu G.I. Joe. That's from a movie, if anybody can remember what the movie was. And a lot of times when you're depressed, you cover over it, act normal, well, what is normal, right? Um, but it's always there, eating away at you. You know, depressed because, oh, I didn't get that job, so I'm pretty depressed. Okay, you'll get over that because you'll get a different job. Well, you know, I didn't get that toy that I wanted, or I didn't get the car, I wanted this one here, and you know, I couldn't get it, they sold it, or I can't afford it, oh, God, I wish I had this. You know, or you got an argument with the wife or the husband or friends or family or whatever. So everybody does have a certain amount of depression, part of life. Right now, the depression is widespread because of the lockdowns. That's a fact. All right, I'm going to cut this here because this is just kind of telling you what I'm going to be doing in the videos. So I'm going to cut it.